care of business, the special edition this time round. We're talking about the review of 2021 and our just released end of year property market report. So we've got lots of data and statistics to go through today, and I'm joined by the big guy. CEO Louis Allsopp.
Hey. 6'5" CEO. There's not many around, is there?
He's a big guy, very big guy.
So the purpose of the report for anybody that's watching, listening, is we collate all the data, and we do this every single year. It's data that Allsopp and Allsopp have, and this looks at sold data, transactional data, checks for properties. Really gives anybody from a client down to the press a bit of an insight into what's actually happening, because sometimes you can read these reports, and I see people read reports about the whole of Dubai, and it doesn't really give it a true understanding of what's happening. So when we give our data, it's very much off the floor.
Yeah.
So 2021, obviously we're in 2022 today, but in 2021, the review that we're giving, give me some interesting facts that I would like to know and the people listening and watching would like to know.
So throughout the year, we've seen different news stories about property prices increasing. I can probably liken the property prices last year throughout the year as a little bit like a roller coaster, where things didn't go up like this. And if you listen to podcasts, I'm going on a upwards diagonal shape. Basically, it was up and down, so it's very seasonal. But over the course of last year, some interesting bits of information was the average property price for a villa or a townhouse for sale increased by 780,000 dirhams, which is about £150,000.
Which is a good place to be as a homeowner.
Yeah, no small number. Apartments actually increased 450,000 dirhams on average over the course of the year. So about £100,000, £90,000 per
Obviously,
property.
when you are doing this, if you do own an apartment that is worth 500,000 dirhams, it doesn't mean that your apartment is now worth 900,000.
Yeah. This is an average based on the total number of transactions we've done. But on average last year, we've seen an increase of that, and I'll talk through percentages in a moment. What's also quite notable is rental prices. Rental prices last year for an apartment or for a townhouse or a villa, we've seen an increase of 40,000 dirhams per property last year, which is about £8,000 per property.
That's very hard to tell. If you're living in a property and you keep renewing, you don't see the new true value. So this is what happens, is that landlords don't really understand what their true value is until either someone tells them or it becomes empty and the agent lets them know what it's worth. And I think that's what's happening a lot in the market, is that tenants are deciding to stay in their houses, so it's dragging the true value of the rental. So there's only so much landlord can put the price up in value, isn't there?
Yeah. And then 6,000 dirhams increase, about £1,000 increase on apartment rentals. That's for last year. What that relates to in property price in terms of increases, we've seen a 24% increase on villas and townhouses last year on average throughout the course of the year. And again, in Dubai, you have different communities that will perform slightly differently. And then apartments, which have seen a 32% increase across the whole of the city.
So in summary, if you are a homeowner, you are in a good place for capital appreciation.
You have made money last year.
What people don't, if you don't own a house though, and you are renting, people assume that homeowners maybe will celebrate when the market goes up, but the reality is, as a homeowner, I know this myself, when your house goes up in value, you're not selling it. So it's like, it's great, but you don't actually see the cash unless you refinance it. So it's always good to be in positive equity, but like, I think a lot of people think people are sitting there like sitting on bags of cash now, but it's not the case. You just
like stocks and shares, market goes up and down. We see cycles here, and realistically, I say to everyone in Dubai, if you have a medium to long term view, then that's probably the most sensible view on things. But the things with the marketplace is that it doesn't really matter if prices go up until you sell.
Correct. If you're not on the ladder and the prices are going up, it's nearly impossible for you to get on.
We had a manager meeting this morning about people talking about, let's wait for the prices to come down. And realistically, we're talking about 2021, and we'll talk about what 2022 might hold. I don't see prices going down this year in 2022.
No, I agree. So if you were to describe the 2021 property market in a song, what song would it be?
A song? Can it be an old or new one?
It's an old one, and I think you'd probably lean towards Roland Keating.
Life is a roller coaster, just gotta find it.
Ride it, it's not find it.
It's
ride the roller coaster.
You're a Roland Keating fan club?
I am a massive Roland. I've got the Irish accent that goes, if tomorrow never comes.
Oh God, please stop.
Okay.
We talk about resi though. So what about commercial mortgages, which are other departments who've got Allsopp and Allsopp? How do they perform?
The commercial specifically is a very difficult market to define, because I'm speaking to the head of commercial, and one of the things that commercial market lacks at the moment is the ability to be able to confirm what the recently sold transactions were. So in Dubai, you have data now and data points from Property Finder and Houser.com and other portals that give you recent transactions. When you're dealing with commercial, it's very hard to do. What we've noticed is that we're working with a lot of landlords that are buying properties and then renovating them and putting them back on the market, and they're seeing a massive increase on the reselling them. So we've got a lot of investors that are working on the books of that. So the market is definitely on the increase.
Prime offices, good locations, good views are very much in demand. What that translated in transactions last year for us, commercial transactions up 42%. That surprised you?
Not really.
We're considering businesses the year before probably went through one of their worst years ever.
Yes, if you say it like that, of course, you go, oh my God, I'm going to be surprised. But you have to look at a couple of factors which we'll discuss later on. What has Dubai done? You know, now you have 100% business ownership. There is so many more businesses in 2021 that have opened up. Yes, businesses have closed down, but someone said this to me that was, he runs the malls in Dubai. And I said, oh, you see all these shops that are closed down? He laughed and went, yeah. I said, I get it. He said, shops do close down. He said, but do you know what? He said, new businesses will open up as well. And that's what I think that's really supported the commercial sector, is that Dubai is becoming the hub. It's becoming the hub for the world. It's not just for people that live in Dubai. I think there's a tax-free haven, which obviously is no longer tax-free.
We'll talk about
that later on. But it's that place now where people want to come and work and want to place their businesses. So am I surprised? No, because of the new rules and regulations that Dubai put in place, such as the 100% business ownership. Mortgage
transactions, though, something that does not surprise me, 43% increase up from 2020. So what we've noticed is huge appetite for people to kind of be more deep-rooted into Dubai.
Yep.
Our mortgage team has been absolutely inundated this year, as have lots of banks doing mortgages.
I think you know the market for mortgages is going to be busy when you speak to your neighbour, and your neighbour's talking about how they can buy their next home and sell their current home. And, you know, they always say that, you know, be wary of the investment when your neighbour's talking about it. And I think we're in that stage at the moment where everyone's getting on the property. I know the amount of messages I have from people who I'm distantly close to in friendship terms that saying, can you help me with a mortgage?
Yeah.
So it just shows that the intent is that, I mean, Dubai is so different to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Dubai now, people that move here don't have a 2-year plan. They now own a house here. When they own a house here, and I've seen this firsthand, people are going back to England, including me. I went back to England at Christmas, and I come back and went, wow, I've really appreciated Dubai. And I thought that was just me. But then speaking to the directors and business people, they were saying the same thing. They were going to Liverpool, London, Coventry, obviously. This is always... Coventry is Coventry.
Yeah.
But a lot of people now appreciate what Dubai is, and I think a lot of people have got long-term roots here, and that's what the mortgage will create, a 25-year long-term route for you.
Definitely. Residential lettings transactions, people renting properties in Dubai, up 15% versus 2020. So again, we have seen a recovery of people leaving the country because of COVID, return. Yeah. So really healthy numbers there.
Don't forget, when you're talking about new transactions, how many people have just decided to renew because the price has gone up, which we talked about. So, you know, why would you move on? If you can legally stay in your property and not have to move or pay another 25% more, you're going to stay. So the numbers make sense in the increasing market.
Brings us nicely on to how people have been buying properties and renting properties in 2020. So last year, 60% of our transactions came from people buying a property with a mortgage.
Yeah.
So that kind of correlates with the huge spike in people taking mortgages out for Allsopp and Allsopp, and 40% with cash.
Yeah.
Tenants. So in Dubai, if you're not listening to this from within Dubai, you have to, when you rent a property, you place multiples of checks down for modes of payment to rent a property over a 12-month period. So last year, 29% of people made their rental purchase or rental deposit with one check. So they paid their rent for the year upfront. So a third of people last year paid for their check upfront. 24% of people, 2 checks. So basically made 2 payments throughout the course of the year. And then the vast majority, which is 47% of people renting a property through Allsopp and Allsopp last year, rented a property with 3 or more checks throughout the course of the year. I think we're starting to see that more often now, people having a bit more flexibility and paying more frequently?
I forecast that in 2022, 23, 24, the direct debits are going to come in. I think one of the main factors to that is that they're creating laws at the moment, such as what we can talk about later, taxation and the decriminalisation of checks. So checks for me are probably one of the most dated things in Dubai, and I think one of the most dangerous things for anyone looking to make a scam at the moment. I'm sure everyone's seen the holiday home scam that come out.
Yeah, we talked about it
a few weeks ago. People putting checks down for renting from landlord for 4 checks and then collecting the check for 1 check. There is a dangerous element there, and I think that with decriminalising the checks, the next angle is going to be how you turn payments into digital payments.
Yeah.
So decriminalising checks, I just want to jump on that very quickly whilst we're going through the check process.
Yeah.
What happened with the Dubai courts and what happened with the laws in Dubai regarding that?
So previously, if you had bounced a check for any value, it was basically a criminal offence.
Correct.
And now a new law was passed back in the last year where, I can't remember the value, was it up to 200,000 dirhams?
I think it was 100,000 to start with, and you can get like I think it's a 2,000 dirham penalty is what you get. But I mean, what used to happen, so everyone's understanding, if you bounce a check of 5,000 dirhams, £1,000,
yeah,
you would get a call from the police station to say, you've bounced this check, either you come here or we're pretty much going to come to you. And people would be like, oh my gosh. Anywhere else in the world, that is not a normal way to work. You know, a financial obligation between 2 parties in agreement, and then you can go to the court and sort it out. But like, yeah, I think the world I think the way the world is going with Dubai is a lot more of the modern approach, which was taking checks away and potentially going down the direct debit route. So decriminalising check, which happened in 2021, was a massive step towards making the UAE and Dubai property
making
market.
people feel comfortable conducting business here. But yeah, check. You know, you wouldn't feel comfortable with, you know, criminal offences for checks. You know, it's not normal. So
we would not write a check out unless we absolutely had to, because it's just 2 things. It's a pain in the arse, and you know, you don't want to put your name there with a check because the check is a legal guarantee, isn't it?
Yeah. Circling back to our report, so what it's not actually all ups from last year, our property report. We had a couple of decreases in some of our activities. So actually the number of properties coming to market, both for sale and for rent, was down versus 2020.
Yeah.
What do you put that down to? Because that's interesting.
Supply and demand. I think you just got to look at it like this. Properties are coming online and they are selling before they hit the internet. So this leads perfectly onto notable sales. So I'm just going to go through some notable sales with you, which will lead on to what we're talking about. So we've got here some commercial, some residential transactions that we've done. So I'm going to give you some ideas of notable transactions. So some higher end stuff in Jumeirah Golf Estates, we sold a 5-bedroom in Wildflower for 30,500,000, which was an off-market listing, meaning that never came onto the internet.
Every one of these transactions you're talking about never reached the internet.
You're stealing my thunder.
I'm really sorry.
That's exactly what I'm saying to you. Palm Coutier, a 3-bedroom apartment, we sold for 20,750,000. Sold that property without coming to the internet. Redwood Avenue, 23 million, 6-bedroom, came on, didn't hit the internet. Commercial, Index Tower, 39,830,000, sold it without coming to the internet. So people want to talk about the trend in Dubai. The trend is when the market's hot, in which it's going up, there's a pool of buyers here. And these pool of buyers are saying, as soon as you think a property is coming available, you call me.
Yeah.
So it's not the transactions are not happening. What's happening is we're taking a property on to come live and we're already selling it or renting it.
The transactions happen too quickly before it even goes onto the internet, which has resulted in listings being down last year.
And that has that shows that obviously portals are great, but working with a brokerage or a known brokerage has a pool of buyers already in place. It shows that actually the majority of the larger transactions were not even involved in Hausa or Beirut or any of the larger portals, Property Finder. They've gone directly through the agency, which is it shows the strength of the market for the demand.
Definitely. Top buyer and tenant nationalities. So we record here at Allsopp Allsopp the nationalities of people that buy and rent through us. So top 5: British, Indian, French, Canadian, Lebanese. Surprise you?
No, I think a lot of British people have always come to Allsopp Allsopp because we are British. I think that's just a comfort factor that we have. But one thing that I did see this year, did you say there's a European country on there?
French and Canadian.
French and Canadian. And in sales, I think there's 2 European countries for the first time ever, if I'm not mistaken. British and French. It's the first time ever in top buyer nationalities we've ever had 2 European countries in the top 4.
Yeah.
Now, what that says to me, it
coincides with the narrative at the start of the year. A lot of people escaping their home countries for lockdowns, coming here. What we did find is a lot of the Europeans were actually responsible for the higher end property price purchases.
They were coming with some big investments they were making. People that are living in Monaco and then coming to buy in Dubai. Dubai becomes actually quite an affordable place to live compared to some of these places.
Definitely. Okay, so I mean, 2021 all around very positive reading, and kind of leads us on to really what 2022 look like, because
I think before we talk about what 2022 looks like, I think there's some notable points that I want to bring on what changed in Dubai, which also had a knock-on effect to this. So first of all, co-living with the opposite sex. So tell us what life was like before the rule change, and the rule changed in 2021 to say that you can now co-live with the opposite sex.
Up until last year, unless you're married, you could not live with the opposite sex. So, many parts of the world, obviously we are in a Muslim country, many parts of the world, you may have a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and you can live together basically.
But the thing, if you put it in the truth terms, there are a lot of people that were living together, but we had the fear of, oh my gosh, what do we do? What happens if we get caught? And I think that Dubai's new law has brought into place that, okay, this is a modern culture that we're in. Obviously, people need to get to know each other and do whatever they're going to do, or they might just be 2 friends living in a place. So having that co-living is really, I think, because you see it in the news in England. People say, oh, you can't hold hands or you can't live together. And I think they're trying to create and understand that Dubai is an accepting city to live in. So that was one massive thing that come out. 100% business ownership. So that was probably one of the biggest bits of news really for anyone who's a business owner.
Yeah, so years previous, up until recently, to own a property in Dubai...
No, a business.
Own a business in Dubai, you had to have a local Emirati sponsor you or the business to be able to own a business. So essentially, they would be the owner of the company.
And then you would take POA for the business.
Yeah,
so effectively, even on paper, you don't own the business, you have POA for it. So that law recently changed, and every business in Dubai pretty much took full ownership of their business. I think one of the first companies to ever do it was actually Apple.
Yeah.
Apple were coming to Dubai. This is years ago, and I remember the story coming out saying that they wanted to come, but they wouldn't come because they would not give their brand or logo or their business to an Emirati or to anyone to sponsor the business. And they were the first company ever, to my knowledge, that were the first business to be non-local. So that moved into transition of the business in Dubai. And then the final one we've got here that I want to discuss, and also a very big one that's really pushed the property market, is digital signatures and how they have now,
hooray,
I know, come into effect, and they now hold the same weight and authority in the courts as a normal signature from a piece of paper. Give me just a very
it blows my mind that up until last year you still had to print something, sign it, scan it, and send it back.
Or sometimes go and meet them.
I'm just thinking, the world we are in now, particularly in my UK side of the business, I don't remember the last time I physically put a wet signature on something.
Yeah.
Everything is used, whether it's DocuSign, Adobe Sign, Signable. So it's a digitally adopted signature, and that is now recognised in the UAE.
So where would we use this in our day-to-day for anyone that's watching? So if there's someone's listing their property with us?
So whether you're listing a property with us for sale, whether you're signing a legal contract to buy or sell a property.
So we would effectively, just so I understand it for everyone else that's watching this, you want to sell your house, we would create a digital PDF.
Yeah.
We would send it to them, and they would digitally sign it on there and send it back and instantly get that.
So they would type in their name, it would adopt a signature, and basically it's all time-stamped to say, Carl Allsopp has signed this document on this day and has agreed that this is his adopted signature.
And security-wise, for anyone who doesn't understand digital signatures, it takes the IP address, where they're located, so ever dispute, you can see exactly what phone it's come from, what laptop it's come from, so you can actually see the authentication behind it.
All plays a part in Dubai's goal of being paperless, and we have pretty much accomplished that in most parts of our business, where We don't like paper. We prefer everything to be done remotely via digital signature. We do it for all job offers, employment contracts.
My diary is digital. I literally write it in my notes, and my notes converts to my phone and everything else, and you can tick it off. It's a lot easier.
It's pretty incredible considering the last couple of years we've had all these changes come in for the positive.
Yeah, definitely.
And that leads us on to 2022. There's been some quite important announcements in the first couple of weeks. We touched on a few weeks ago about the working week changing from Monday to Friday now, rather than Sunday to Thursday.
Yeah. Which gives you roast dinners on Sunday.
Roast dinners on Sunday, yeah, we talked about that. That's really
so big up to Ready Roast. If you're watching, Ready Roast is the #1 roast dinner delivery company in Dubai. You can get a roast dinner Yorkshire pudding with gravy and beef sent to your doorstep.
Or my wife could cook it for me.
No one knows your wife. No,
cook for me though.
They will come to your house now.
Excuse me. So last week actually they announced changing laws for gaming to be allowed in Ras Al Khaimah.
Yeah.
You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
So we have to be very careful when we talk about this terminology, gaming, at the moment. So to give everyone an understanding of what's happened,
Xboxes everywhere?
Yeah, Xboxes and ping pong. So in Dubai, if anyone has noticed over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of well-known gaming hotels come to Dubai. So things like Caesar's Palace, obviously have the Atlantis, they're launching the MGM, the Aria are currently all under construction in Dubai. There are many other well-known gaming hotels.
You'll find it's hard, aren't you?
Gaming hotels that are landing in Dubai. Anyway, Ras Al Khaimah have announced officially they have coming to Ras Al Khaimah on Al Marjan Island. The hotel name is
The Wynn.
The
so
Wynn.
Famous, synonymous in Las Vegas, if anyone's been.
So the Wynn is where we actually stay when we go. So that's how we went. This Wynn and Encore, which are the two hotels.
They have lots of gaming tables.
Lots of gaming tables, yes, table tennis. So they have lots of gaming. But what we found with what's happened, Ras Al Khaimah, has been a major development with it. So the minute that the Wynn was announced, it wasn't just, this is what we're doing and it's gaming. They announced it and they automatically announced that they're putting the regulator in place. And part of that regulation is not just this is how you do it. There's also financial regulations in place as well, down to money laundering, anti-regulation. So you can see that the wording that we're using, it's going to be a gaming hotel. So whether knock-on effect that is for Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, very exciting, and I'm sure that's good. That's 2026, so they're looking to hand that over. Dubai already has the capabilities to be able to, at some point, if they want to, press the button with these hotels. Now, if or when that happens, we don't know. But with this new regulator put in place for all of the authority of gaming, I'm expecting some exciting news in the next couple of years. If
others will likely follow, it's going to be good for tourism.
Well, think about it like this. You're going to bring people from Vegas.
Yeah.
And, if you look at what Dubai's done, they've took the shopping industry, they've pretty much got that. They've got the tourists and the beaches, etc. Yeah. They've tried to get the Florida market with MGM, and which has been a disaster, to be honest. If you go there, it's all the shops are closed down because the footfall isn't there.
Must try better. But love the rides. It's very good for the kids, but not enough people go there. Now they're trying to pull the tourism from there. So where will it affect Dubai? Tourists, definitely. More tourists, definitely. But thirdly, more people spending money in country.
I think there'll be a taxation on it as well, of some sort of fee to go and do gaming in Dubai. So it's only going to affect positively the economy.
Last thing today, huge news announced yesterday, and big uproar, positive or negatively. There is now an introduction for corporation tax for the UAE effective 1st of June 2023, or whenever your new financial year starts. So if you're working calendar year, you could kick in 1st of January 2024. Corporation tax, something we're used to from the UK.
Yes.
What does that mean to everybody? Are you getting paid tax on your personal earnings?
That's none of your business. So corporation tax, I think what the important thing to address that they've really stressed when they put it out on social media, this does not affect real estate investments, it does not affect salaried employees, and it does not affect dividends for anyone that owning a business. Where it does affect you is they take a percentage, which is 9% of your net profits from your profits, which would be taxable earnings, meaning that effectively Dubai is now a taxable city, which is a major stepping stone. Good or bad, how you take it. Let's take the bad. The bad for me is, as a business owner, there's 9% of your net profit coming out going towards taxation. That's the bad. There's no way to hide away from that. The good, what is that 9% going to bring to Dubai? That 9% of everybody's taxable earnings, what do you see for your point of view? Where do you think that money is going to be?
I still think it is still the cheapest place to conduct business in the Middle East in terms of taxation, compared to the US and UK. US, you're looking at 21%, UK 19% corporation tax, so it's still significantly cheaper to do business here. And the reality is that it was going to come at some point. Any economy relies on tax.
Yeah.
And like the VAT, whilst at the time that was a shock, you just adapt. I think all businesses will adapt accordingly.
Okay, here's a question for you then. How do you adapt? If you're a business, so I have an idea how I think we will adapt. How do you think a general business person in Dubai that has a small to medium business, we're talking, nothing crazy, they're looking at this saying, oh my God, 9% of more, because it's a hammer blow for some people.
Make no mistake, this taxation will cost, forget the tax payable, it will cost every single business and business owner more money, because you're having to pay more resources on either increasing headcount for accountants in your business, or getting a tax expert in to go through consultancy and advice in your business. One way or another, you need more resources to ensure that you are able to file and pay your taxes on time, because it's going to be, it's going to be a big job to ensure that everything is done, paid in, paid out.
I mean, we have it. I mean, every quarter we are notified that our tax is due.
For VAT, yeah.
It gets our VAT, which is tax. Yeah. Does work out. Our VAT is due. We have to get the accountants in. We have to make sure the audit's done every year. You have to have the tax expert, and there is a cost on this. We've got a VAT expert that works in our business. We even have an anti-money laundering officer working in our business, and these costs to a business, yes, it's definitely become more expensive to run a business. Now, the question mark that I think a lot of people are going to ask is, what's going to happen to the fees? So, for instance, when you renew your trade license at the moment, there is astronomical fees to run that. What's going to happen with the fees?
We run a business in the UK. Once you have a registered trade name, you don't have to keep renewing it every single year. In the UAE, every single year, you have to renew your trade license. I would hope, speculating here, that if we're paying tax yearly, that we're not having to pay tax plus quite expensive fees to renew our trade license. Let's see, we don't know on that one.
I think the last thing I'd say on VAT on corporation tax, from my point of view, is I think you're going to see a lot more bigger companies start to map out how they're spending their money, as in, rather than just say, let's go, how much money can we make? It will be, okay, how much are our expenses? What are we expenses? Like in the US or UK, you have expense credit cards. You're told to put your petrol through. You're told to put your meals with your business partners through, because that comes as a taxable deduction, doesn't it?
Yes.
So I think there's going to be a lot more thought process given onto that in terms of how do you make it efficient to run your business.
It's become quite serious running a business now, isn't it?
We literally just said that. We said we've gone from having loads of lads and girls in the office making money and being this real estate company 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago to now anti-money laundering, corporation tax,
data privacy laws coming in the summer. So,
but Dubai is in a very healthy place.
All these changes makes Dubai globally a more credible place to do business, which I'm very excited about.
And I think we're in for a good 2022.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Cheers.